Hey YouTube, I've got a video today on maintenance. This video is for new guys. It could work for guys that've been doing this for a while too, but mainly this is for new guys. I remember when I first started doing maintenance, I started in a complex where I was the only one. It was 104 units. I didn't have anybody to teach me or mentor me, but I was able to do it with YouTube videos. So I'm really thankful for these type of videos, and I'm gonna make a video that shares 10 tips and tricks that'll help new maintenance guys. It'll make your life a lot easier. These are things that I wish I would have known. There's no videos for this. I didn't find anything. There may be, but YouTube is so big that I never found them. So I'm going to go over 10 things that'll really, really help a new maintenance guy. And I wish I would have seen this information, but now that I know it, I'm going to share it with you guys. Number one, and this probably was something that I already knew, is watch videos. But watch YouTube videos. I mean, there's videos on everything. Even on this channel, I have videos about simple stuff like unclogging a toilet, or HVAC stuff, or plumbing stuff, or sheetrock, electrical, all kinds of stuff. So watch videos, but have a way of getting out of that apartment. You don't want to watch a video in front of the tenant. You don't want to be there with a refrigerator that you're working on and having to watch a video and the tenant's watching you see this video, because first of all, you're a new guy. And second of all, it's just really uncomfortable for you, and the tenant's going to think you don't know what you're doing. So I have an exit strategy. One thing that you can do is tell them, you know what, I got to go check up on a part that I'm waiting, or I gotta go do, anything. Just tell them somebody's going to drop something off in 5 minutes, so I'll be back in a little bit. Have an exit strategy, and then go out there, watch that video. And now that you know what you're dealing with, usually you need to take either a picture of the model number or the brand of the refrigerator or stove or whatever you're working on, and then you can go watch a video related to that, to what you need. But have an exit strategy. I didn't know this, so I got really nervous sometimes when I would want to fix something and I didn't know how to get out of that apartment. I didn't have anything planned, and I didn't know what to do. So just have an exit strategy. Just have it in the back of your mind for anytime you're stuck doing something and you need to go watch a video. Just tell the tenant, I'll be right back. I got to go do this, and you take your phone with you and watch that video. That's number one. Number two, when I first started, like I said, nobody taught me none of this, and I was painting apartments, and I didn't know if I was going too fast or too slow. I didn't have anything to compare to. And one day we needed help turning apartments. We had a lot of apartments, a lot of work orders, so they hired a contractor to come and help me. The guy went in there, and half a day later, he was out of that apartment. What the hell? How did this guy do it so fast? In my mind, I was already judging, thinking, I bet you this guy did a mess. He did this, he did the other. And I asked him, how do you do apartments so fast? He didn't really tell me all the tricks, but the one thing he did tell me is, first of all, that roller and that paintbrush that you're using are not helping you. And this was true, because I was using a disposable roller and like $1 paintbrushes. And those things, you're never going to advance. Stuff doesn't look right. You drip more paint over the floor. And it just, you're dipping that paint roller or that paintbrush, every 20 seconds, and you don't go very far. Once you get a good cheapskin roller and a good paintbrush, 2.5 is about the width that's perfect for this type of work. 2.5 inch wide. It's going to be anywhere from around $12 to $18, a good decent brush. And you're going to see the difference. You're going to dip that brush one time, and you're going to go 4 or 5 feet with the one cut. And it's going to make work a lot easier, a lot better, a lot cleaner, and a lot faster. So these were things I didn't know. I was using those little dollar brushes, and, it just didn't work. So this is one tip that'll make your job it'll make it faster and more efficient. That's tip number 2. Tip number 3, anytime they hire you at a complex, the first questions they're always going to ask is, are you pool certified? Are you EPA certified or HVAC certified? And even if you're not, they're going to want you to get certified for pool. So all of a sudden now you're dealing with chlorine. In this channel, I have a video over, pH and chlorine and stuff like that. But one thing that I couldn't figure out is, I put a tablet in the chlorinator for the spa, and my chlorine would go really high. And, it'd be 7 or 8, way up there. And then I'd leave it a few days, and then all of a sudden it's down to 0. And then I put another tablet, and the next day it would be really high, and I kept on fighting and I could never figure it out. Till one day I decided, you know what? I'm just gonna put a half a tablet, not a whole tablet, a half a tablet. See, nobody ever explained that you could cut a tablet and just use half. Once I started doing that, once I started using, measuring cutting down the chlorine tablets to put in the chlorinator, it just made my life a lot easier. Then now, after that, I figured out in the spas that I've been working at, they usually take about a third of a tablet every 2 days. And that's for the size of spas that I've been working with. It's not always going to be the same. It's going to vary depending on the season, the heats, the if it's raining, the use, people getting in, using it or not. But in an average spa, my average use is about a third of a tablet every 2 days. That's been my average. It's not going to be yours. That's been mine. So this is something nobody taught me, and I wish I would have known. Now, I'm going to share this with you guys. Cut your tablet. Don't over-chlorinate. One of the biggest problems that you'll have if you're over-chlorinating is the heat exchanger is copper. And when it's got too much chlorine, it'll eat right through the copper, and then it'll start leaking, and then you're not going to have a spa, and it just gets really complicated. Or they can close your pool down if you're over-chlorinated, or your spa down. So that's something that now you know. Now you can just cut your tablets, and you'll figure out how much you need. Number 4, like I said, when they hire you, they're gonna want to see you EPA certified and pool certified. Being EPA certified does not mean you know how to fix air conditioners. Properties do this to protect themselves, not so much for anything else. But a lot of guys, and I've known maintenance guys, have been taking their test for years and they've never been able to pass it. And I always ask them, what test are you taking? Oh, the universal. Tell me. Why would you take the universal if you're doing apartment work? I mean, I'm not saying it's bad to have, but taking the universal test is EPA test is like trying to take your CDL license, your driver's license, and your motorcycle license on the same day when you're 16, when you first start. You're not going to pass it. There's no way in the world. You're not experienced enough. It's really hard. I mean, I'm not saying you can't pass the EPA test. It's a lot harder. What you do, you take your core. You have to take your core. You have to pass your core and your type 2. Type 2 is for your regular units, air conditioner units. Type 1 is like water heaters, and type 3 would be for chillers. And if you're not experienced, you're not going to be working on those anyways. I'll guarantee that. And I've never worked on chillers myself, and I've been doing this type of work for years. So take your core and your type 2. Don't waste a lot of time and energy and memory trying to memorize these dates and pressures and stuff for type 1 and type 3. Make it easier on yourself. Just take the core and the type 2. Nobody tells you this, but now you know it. Just study the core and the type 2. If you want to get certified for type 1 and type 3 later on, turn your license to a universal license, it's a lot easier to do it later on when you have more experience and when you don't have to have all these dates memorized. So that's number 4. If you guys are finding any value in these videos, I would really appreciate a like or a subscribe. I'm always doing these type of videos for maintenance guys, homeowners, for anybody. This video is for maintenance guys, but I have a lot of videos here for homeowners and anybody like that. But especially if you're a new maintenance guy and you're finding value in this, I'm always going to have videos here that are going over stuff like this. Okay, number 5, hot water. See, one of the things that's work order that's very common is dishwashers, leaks, drips, stuff like that. And a lot of the time it's on the hot water side because hot water will go through the gaskets a lot faster. Sometimes you go to close the angle stop and it doesn't close. It's broken, it's loose, or something's wrong with it. So you're trying to figure out how to shut down the water for the whole apartment to change that angle stop, and it just becomes a big deal because sometimes you got to notify other tenants, and it's just a big deal. What you can do, if it's a hot water side, or if you're going to be working on dishwasher, it's always going to be the hot water side. You can just shut the water off at the water heater. All water heaters up top, they have a shut-off valve. Those are usually pretty good because water heaters get changed about every 15, 20 years. They should. So the valve, if it's not good, it probably got changed recently. So shut the hot water at the water heater. I didn't know this. I used to shut the whole water for the whole building. The place I was at, they had a one valve for like 16 apartments or something like that. And now I know. So I just go to the hot water heater and just shut it off right there. And like I said before, this may be common sense for a lot of guys that have been doing this for years, but for new guys, this may not be common sense, and we all started somewhere. Okay, number 6, thermostats. Once you start working on air conditioners, you're going to find one very, very, very common problem. People say there's a bad thermostat. It's not reading right. I need a new thermostat. And a lot of times you go in there, you look at that thermostat, and sure enough, and this is something that it took me years to figure out, that thermostat is sitting right under a light fixture. And if that light fixture has an old light bulb, a regular, light bulb that gets really hot, 60 watt, 40 watt, 100 watt, I don't know, whatever it is. Well, anything around that light bulb is really hot, and that thermostat is sitting right underneath that light bulb. So the air conditioner keeps on blowing and blowing and blowing, and it's never reaching its target because they're leaving that light on in that hallway right over that thermostat. And the apartment may be really cold, may have even frozen the whole system, but it's still not reaching target because that light is on next to that thermostat. So be really careful with that. Sometimes it becomes a psychological issue for some of the tenants because they'll tell you, you know what, it never gets under 82 in here. And you go in there and it's really cold. I carry with me a thermostat, and they tell me it never gets really cold in here. I take out my thermostat, turn it on, the apartment's 74 at another area, 76 over here or whatever. But next to that thermostat, they keep on telling me this thermostat's not reading right. This thermostat's not reading right. So it's going to be that light. Either you explain to the tenant that they got to turn that light off whenever they want to read temperatures. You can't leave it on, otherwise your AC will be running constantly. So that light is something that took me a while to figure out. Once I figure it out, and that's very common, I've seen it in almost every complex I've worked at. Figure out what kind of light they have and how much of a difference it's making on that thermostat. And this is something that'll save you a lot of headaches and a lot of changing thermostats for no reason. And number 7 now. Number 7 is going over this. Carrying with you a thermostat. This is something I wish I would have known. It would have saved me a lot of problems throughout the years. I never used to know this, but carrying a thermostat is something that'll make your life a lot easier. You go into an apartment, the tenant tells you, I don't feel any hot water. You turn your hot water on, your thermostat, you tell them, ma'am, it's 112 degrees, 118, whatever it is. Or somebody will tell you, it's not blowing cold air. You go up there. Sometimes what happens, people turn their AC off, especially in Arizona during the day. They come back in the afternoon and they want their apartment to be 70 degrees at, half an hour after they turned it on. You go over there, you put this thermostat over at their vent, and you tell them, sir, it's blowing out at 58 degrees, so it's going to take a while, but it is. There's a split. You measure your airflow, your intake, and your air coming out. And having a thermostat is really, 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 really helpful. Carry a thermostat with you. These things are, I don't know, they're like $20, $30. This is a field piece. These are good thermostats, and they'll just save you a lot of time, a lot of hassle, a lot of arguing, and he said, she said. Once you write down your work order, you write it on the work order. It was blowing at so and so air, or water or whatever it is. So this will save you a lot of time, a lot of argument, and a lot of headaches. And once a tenant finds out that you're actually registering temperatures, they think about what they're saying then, because you're actually registering a true temperature, not it feels hot, it feels cold. You're saying it's blowing 58, 54, whatever, or you're saying the hot water is at so much. So this will really help you a lot, and it'll make you look very professional. Okay, so we're going on to number 8. And this is weather sealing around doors. And this is a really, really common problem. And I used to struggle a lot with this because people would say, well, I see a gap over here and I see a gap over there, close it. See a gap over here, and then some tenants would almost piss me off. Like, they stand back, they look, I can see some light over here, and I could never figure out what was going on. Till one day I figured out, whoever had put the weather stripping originally, it's probably still good. It's just that the strike plate has been moving further and further. Either somebody moved it at one point, or something happened, or something got changed, and now the strike plate is not letting the door close all the way to the weather stripping. instead of putting foam and all kinds of stuff and trying to make all kinds of stick stuff onto the frame, move the strike plate over and let the door run further towards that part of the frame. And that'll make it a lot easier. A lot of times you don't even have to change the weather stripping, or you actually end up pulling a lot of the stuff out that other guys had stick. A lot of times you end up just moving the strike plate over, and then you just take off all that foam that you don't need anymore, and it'll give you a nice seal, nice and straight. A lot of times that's all it takes. So playing with that strike plate is a lot easier than trying to mess around with that foam. Okay, here's another one. Number 9. Less keys. Every property I ever went to, they have a key for the shop, a key for the office, a key for this, a key for that storage, a key for that. And then you end up with a whole lot of keys. And you're trying to get into the pump room, you're getting this key. Then you're going over there, you get this key. And then you just end up carrying with a whole bunch of keys. And I always hated that. And I figured out on properties, I only have 3 or 4 keys that I use. The office key and the shop key can many times be on the same keyed the same, those two, because anybody that has access to your shop has access to your office, and that's usually the on-call or corporate. You're not gonna give a key to a temp for the office or for the shop. So that's one key that can be on the same key, and that's a key that you're gonna use the most. Then keys like a lot of times I use for example, the vendor key and the pump room and some of the closets that are around the office, stuff like that. I key them different, to one same key. So my thing is, I don't carry a lot of keys. Keys just slow you down. A whole bunch of keys are just going to slow you down. Just rekey everything as much as you can to the least amount of keys possible. Of course, there's keys that other people have, but you don't want them in your office, or you're not going to key that to your office key. But rekey the least amount of keys. And that's number 9. That'll make stuff a lot easier. Number 10. And this is common sense to a lot of guys, like I said before, but there's something that makes stuff a lot easier. Always open up your dumpsters after the trash pickup. See, there's a lot of tenants that either they can't lift up the dumpster, or it's kids, or it's older people, or just people are just gross. They don't want to touch those lids, and they'll throw trash next to the dumpster. They figure, well, the maintenance guy can just pick it up and throw it in there. Well, you don't want to do that all day. You don't want to be picking up their trash. But the worst part is sometimes cats or the wind, they'll blow trash all over the property just because they're not getting that trash inside the dumpster. And yeah, we always want to open it up and figure out whose it is and go take it to them or whatever. But just leave the lids open, and that'll make it a lot easier. It'll make it easier for all the tenants to just throw it in there. And then once they throw it in there, they figure, oh, there's a gap back there. So they'll instinctively, fill in the gaps. But if they're just opening the lid and they're just throwing it over there, all of a sudden it's full, but there's nothing in the back. But it just doesn't, it's not arranged right. So just open the lids. And a lot of the managers don't like that, but it just makes it a lot easier. It keeps your property cleaner and keeps your tenants happier. And that's a 10. But I'm going to go over another trick that I learned over time that has made my life a lot easier. I carry this small, I forgot the name of it, gauge. It's a gauge, and I take measurements at an apartment complex of. I already know these numbers, but if you're new to this and you're not very 100% sure of where you want to be on your refrigerant on a unit, take measurements of your units while they're off. Not the one that's broken, of course, the ones that are next to it. Because you're in an apartment complex, so you get up on the roof, they're going to be, I don't know, 15, 18, 20, I don't know how many other apartments are in that roof. Just take some measurements of the ones that are off. Then you can measure your unit while it's off. And while it's off, the refrigerants, the both sides are regulated, to the same PSI. So once just about, I'm not going to tell you guys, but you guys will figure it out, about where you want your PSI to be at on a unit, even if it's off, it's a lot easier, because sometimes you'll go up on a unit, you'll turn it on, and you'll put your gauges on there, and it turns out that everything's really low, and you're thinking it's low on Freon. Well, it's not necessarily low on Freon. There could be a restriction of TX valve or whatever. If it's a piston or TX valve, if there's a restriction, it's gonna make both your pressures low, and you're gonna think it's low on refrigerant. It's not that it's low on refrigerant; it's that it's restricted. But you're not gonna know that if you're not experienced enough, and you don't know what it should be even when it's off. So have in mind that these PSIs are gonna change depending on the time of year, if it's really hot or really cold. But they'll give you a good general idea of where PSI wise you want your refrigerants to be at before you even mess with that unit. And this is for guys that are not very experienced, but this is a trick that'll really help you guys. It'll make life a lot easier. This is a trick that I've never seen anybody talk about, but I'm sharing with you guys. And I know a lot of the HVAC guys are going to be upset that I'm going over this, but I think it's going to help a lot of guys. Anyways, I want to invite you guys again to subscribe and like this video, and thank you very much for watching.